I'd like to start off by asking for a show of hands in the audience for all the women in the room who work in technology, whether you're working in IT at a big company or at a startup. Can you raise your hands? Wow, that's a lot. Woo! I would say that's at least almost half of you, so that's great, a lot of the women in the room. I was looking up some of the statistics because women, as you probably know, are generally underrepresented in technology. They hold a minority of technology jobs in the world. In developed countries overall, it's about, in Europe and the US in general, it's about 25% of technology jobs are held by women, so about a quarter. But in Romania, I was interested to learn it's actually higher. About a third of IT jobs in Romania are held by women. So that's very cool to see, and hopefully will set a trend for the rest of the world and increase from there. We have a panel of 4 really, really impressive women who work in technology in different ways. And I'd like to start by having them tell us a little bit about what they do and also the ratio of men versus women that they work with. If it's 25% overall that women in technology, but I'd like to hear, how it plays out in their jobs. Jennifer, if you want to start.
Yep. Hello again. So, in case you didn't hear it earlier, I'm Jen. I work for Soundcloud as a product manager. My background is also in engineering. So, in engineering, actually, my experience was working with a lot less women. In product management, at least at Soundcloud, there's quite a few, also in very technical components. So, not just user-facing or fulfilling any cliches in those directions. And that's what I do.
My name is Lisa. I'm currently a consultant, so it's just me and my partner, so we're 50-50 currently. But about a year ago, I quit a startup that I worked for 4 years called Wrap. And we were probably like 40% women, but in the engineering team, development team, there was only 1 woman out of probably 20-25 guys. So it was more on the business, sales, and marketing side that we were more women.
Alexandra, I work for a conference called DLD. DLD stands for Digital Life Design. It's probably by now one of the biggest or most important tech conferences in Europe. So we invite all the big influencers, thinkers, drivers, shakers to speak about the latest trends. Actually the founder of DLD or the co-founder of DLD is a woman. Other than that, we're probably like 50-50 in our team. It's just a small team, it's like 12 people. But actually the conferences that we organize are mainly visited by men. So we have probably at the biggest conference in January that we do, it's like 85% male attendance and 15% women.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm the founder of ElektroCouture. We do fashion technology, so it's very smart technology, but in pretty. And I actually founded it based on frustration because I've started out as a software engineer and I worked in that industry as a project manager for 10 years, and I just couldn't understand that because I love technology, like why can't I wear it without looking like a circus pony? So based on that frustration, I started the company 2 years ago. Never took investment. We are break even. We are going to hit our first million next year, and we have 3 tiers. So on the one side, we do design ready to wear. That's very important because we do technology for the normal life. We do consult a lot, which is really nice because we're an enabler business. We're collaborating with a lot of designers, and we're actually also a full-on hardware development company because we also develop battery systems and stuff like that. Our ratio is actually the other way around because fashion technology is very strongly, works very strongly with women. In the overall fashion technology industry, 80% are female founders. In my team, we are 70% women and 30% men, so I actually have to do the opposite now. But our customers are 85% male.
Wow.
So I always get the question, where is your CTO? And I said, I don't have one because I don't need one. And let's talk. And they're still here.
Thank you. So I want to start off by talking a little bit about sexism. Obviously, when you talk about gender in any context, sexism is always something that comes up. So my question is, do you think that sexism exists in the technology industry, and have you witnessed it either yourself or happening to someone else? Lisa, do you want to start?
Well, so the funny thing is when I started out, I mean, like I was the only girl in school who was going programming, and I actually never wanted to do anything with that because I wanted to study graphic design, and I had the advantage, I had like a Russian female programmer as the head of my faculty, and they tried to do like a new thing in programming. So she was like, you should learn to program, you can deal with it. Right, and that's when I wrote my first line. It was awesome. And then, like for a lot of years, like I actually didn't really realize that there was an issue because I was just focusing on I was always working with great people, you know. So it didn't matter from like from which gender, from diversification. It was all like words. But I just wanted to work with great people. But then over the years, and also maybe like losing the nativity, but also at the same time just becoming conscious enough and also, strong enough, in my opinion, to say like, wait a second, that is not okay. And so the short answer is like, yes, sexism absolutely does exist in technology. The problem is that it is sometimes so subtle, and sometimes like it's kind of a balance act that it's really difficult to put your finger on it. And at the same time, because I've been mentoring startups for a long time, I've been on juries and hackathons a long time, especially men are not aware of how they behave and what they say and of the vocabulary, and the only way to improve that is to give feedback. So now I'm in my 30s, and if something is not right, I put my finger on it, it's like, and this is not okay. And that if that means if something is not okay, either I speak up or I get out and walk out of the room and find out like what happened, right? Which happened today. Mm-hmm. And we got a reaction out of it, right? So, and this is not the first time that it happened to me or to my peers. And one of the things what I always say is like, there's one way to react, and it's just like getting upset, but there's the other way. If you really want to change it, you have to give feedback, and like don't burn people, right? But like you have to say, there's something went wrong. Let's talk about this and make it better next time, because that's the only way how we can improve in the long term.
So Alexandra, I wanted to ask you too, have you experienced sexism in your field and what do you do?
Well, I know it exists, especially in Silicon Valley. I've never witnessed it myself. I mean, I'm working for DLD now 10 years, and I'm actually always the only woman in a room. When I go to all these tech conferences, there are like really, really few women. And I was just at this VC event in Berlin, and I mean there were like 60 guys, and I just arrived like 10 minutes delay, and I was like there. I'm like, am I really the only woman in here? Where are all these great female founders? Where are all these awesome women? And so I think like 30 minutes later there were like 2 more showing up. But this is like it's a lonely world.
Yeah, no, I think there are a couple of anecdotes that is happening, and I think that most women that you meet do have different anecdotes of things that are happening. And the first week when I started at Rap, which was the first startup I worked for, me and a female colleague went out to a sales meeting, and it went pretty well, but the guy was very, made himself big in the room, and then after a while, he just stared at my female colleague and was like, did we have sex before? Oh. Like in the sales meeting, and I think that's like, it's extreme. Of course, he was an asshole, and not all men are assholes. But I think that's such a comment that, like, why do someone even think that they can say something like that? And of course, they hadn't. He probably just wanted to show that he was in power. And I think I hear a lot of similar anecdotes. But I don't think this is the only industry. My sister works in the airline industry, and she's been through much worse things. So I think. A lot of the developers, especially that I've been working with, male developers, are very considerate and really trying to change and trying to change the industry, and they're very aware of equality issues.
Do you have other examples too?
Yeah, so I've basically experienced kind of 2 versions of this, right? And the first one is the fact that I constantly have to reestablish the fact that I have a technical background. There's a reason I started my presentation by saying I used to be an engineer, right? Because the assumption otherwise was going to be I do not have a technical background. And one example of this is I remember going to the coffee machine at a company I used to work for, and I was an engineer at that time, and we make chit-chat. The guy's like, oh, which team are you on? I'm like, I'm on team X. Oh, so you're a tester. Like, what the hell, right? There was no indication I was doing anything at all. You could just ask, what do you do? But the assumption was you're a tester. And, by the way, I find testing just underappreciated. But aside from that, it was his way of saying, hey, you cannot possibly be an engineer. And then on the other hand is the more unconscious bias, right? Like, where when I start to get assertive, people call me, like, it's really subtle. Oh, Jen, you're so stressed today. No, I'm not stressed. I'm just trying to tell you how it's supposed to go, right? Just because I'm more assertive doesn't mean you need to think I'm no longer the person I am or call me stressed. So that's a lot more difficult to address because people will feel like, oh, you're too aggressive, you're too loud, you're not nice today. Why are you not making me any cupcakes, right? And that's a lot more difficult to get to than this outright, and I've heard that, oh, I thought women aren't good at engineering, but it seems like you are. Really tricky and really annoying. Like the amount of energy it takes to do this day after day, meeting after meeting, room after room you go into, to first start off by establishing the fact that you are indeed who you are and you know what you're talking about is so fucking exhausting. Thank you.
Lisa, yesterday I noticed, I think you made a joke in your presentation, but when your microphone fell, you said, well, this is one of the problems of being a woman in technology, is that certain things are more difficult, for example, what to wear, because you have a microphone like this, and, it's made for men who have pants with pockets, and, people probably aren't thinking that women wear dresses that don't have pockets. But my question, I guess, for you guys is, what advice do you have for your either male colleagues or men who work in tech? What can they do specifically to make women feel more included and supported and just be more tolerant and make work better in general for women? Do you want to start,
I'm
Jennifer?
happy to answer that because I'm actually pretty active on that topic. And the thing is, what we have right now, the corporate cultures that are the standard corporate cultures, aren't just hostile to women, right? They're hostile to people who do not conform to the standard of the alpha male. And lots of personality types suffer from that. Introverts, right? Like people who do not feel like part of that cliche group. So I always feel like anything you do to make your workplace inclusive and where people can be authentic, and where that isn't just a privilege for the people who happen to be like the majority. If you can create that kind of workplace where everybody feels like, hey, I can just be myself. If I wear high heels, nobody's gonna talk about it and go like, for 2 weeks. Again, that happened to me too. Like, why? There's no reason, right? If you can manage that, then you'll make life so much easier for anyone with a family, right? It's not just women who'd like to spend more time with the children, it's parents, like fathers too, right? There's a lot you can do in just trying to make your workplace respectful of people and trying to really have a conversation with them, understanding what they need so they can feel, they can show vulnerability, right? It's all about being able to show when you're not feeling well. Can I tell you that I'm leaving because I want to see my daughter? Is it okay if I tell you that I'm having a shitty day? Right? If you can create that kind of working place where people can really be themselves, then it's not just women who are going to benefit, but I think we certainly will.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think it's about having role models and having people to look up to, both inside of the organization and outside of the organization. And I think a very important job is, like Alexandra, like you're doing at DLD and other conferences, to make sure that have a lot of women on stage. Because even if it's maybe not direct, like, oh, why does it matter to have a woman on stage? It does matter. When I was in school, we had like 15 different guest speakers, one every week, and they were all male. And of course, the male in the audience were probably sitting there like, yeah, that could be me one day, but none of us didn't really connect the same way. So I think having role models, and that is, lifting someone up in an internal meeting or making someone, either like, make someone else present and not only like a male every time, like that you do think like that, because then every other one in the organization will see that, well, that could be me. They all relate to people who are similar like them, and that goes for, of course, hiring as well.
Alexandra?
Totally agree. I mean, like, role models are so important for women, and I think it's really important for men to become really mentors and really open up your old boys networks and just include these women and teach them. I mean, we're just as well educated as men are, and give them a chance. Come on. I mean, it's time.
So I'm a member of the Berlin Gigetz Women Technology, and we did a concept there. Besides that, we ran huge hackathons with like 120 female engineers and stuff like that. And we had a mentorship program. But there was one concept we've tried is that we did walks. So we just took some women and went to a company and said like, okay, let them just like walk through the company and let them just perceive and reflect to the company how comfortable they feel, because we got like so many women coming to us. I'm thinking about applying in this company, but like how comfortable can I feel as a junior engineer? Will they support me and treat me exactly in the same way as I would be a male, right? And we couldn't answer that question, so we started to walk through all of those companies. And of course companies come and ask like, we need more women, but they don't apply. One of those standard things. And it really starts with the environment. It starts with making women more comfortable, right? You know, those kind of pictures, you know, and having a clean fridge and, hey, you're on toilet. You know, I remember when I started in Australia, my first executive job, and I was the first female executive, right? I was like, okay, good, so where's the female toilet? And the other thing is, what I discovered personally when I went into hardware is I was a part of an open workshop network, and of course there were like a lot of boys there. And then I started to learn all of the machines, from 3D printers to laser cutting, microchips, you know, soldering again and stuff like that. And I just found out that they very much were orientated on function. So this is the machine, there's a button, this is how you program it, and then they just leave you alone. So I was like, yeah, but you can do so much more with these machines, right? So I actually started to teach courses which just explain more the creative side and the potential, what you can do with the machines. And we used it in a more experimental way. And all of a sudden, we had in an afternoon 25 women around a laser cutter. And they came back. So that's also the point, is like having a role model and actually like somebody, like kind of like a lightning tower within the company who is like a to-go point. And it also can be a man. It also can be a man. I remember like one of my first mentors was a man, and he was amazing. There was no issue about gender whatsoever, but there had to be some person which is just like open and I can go to. And I found out like when I was in the workshop, the girls always asked me, are you there? And after a while they felt comfortable. Then they came back on their own. But it was really important for them that I was there, because I taught them how to do machines in the first place. And they were not that afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, a few of you talked about the importance of role models, and I guess I'm wondering, are there women, you know, whether at your company or women in technology who maybe are more famous that you look up to? Who are your female role models in technology? Jennifer?
I don't particularly have very specific ones. I just basically admire anyone that doesn't just do their thing, but also tries to fight the good fight, basically. So people like Lisa are super active, the Berlin Geekettes, that's all very inspiring. And yeah, I just try and be a role model myself as well as I can by speaking out when I need to. And I would encourage you the same, right? So to briefly get back to this, what can you do? Just be a good ally, right? When somebody tells you their concerns, listen to it, see what you can do, just how you can support them. Just a simple, I hear you, what do you need me to do to help, is so effective.
Yeah, I would agree again. I think there are, of course, those that are very visible in media. Sheryl Sandberg and Marissa Mayer, of course, are the maybe the biggest female tech stars. And it's great that they are there, and they're very visible, and they kind of tell everyone that this job can be made by a female, at least for Sandberg's case. And I think, and that is very important, but it's also very important to have your peers, or to have people around you that you trust and that support you. And I think I have my background in the Stockholm startup scene, and there we have a very strong group of women who are all in technology, and we have a simple thing as a secret little Facebook page that we trust each other, and everyone is very open about, like, this happened today at work, or this happened, or I'm considering this, what would you do? And people give each other advice and support, and we even, you know, help each other with network and new jobs and board positions and things like that. So I think, like, finding your close supportive group is extremely powerful, and something that will, like, sometimes you just need that extra push and to dare do something, and I think your closest peers can help you do that many times.
Alexandra, how about you?
Well, I've came across many great role models in media, be it Sheryl Sandberg or Arianna Huffington or Kara Swisher. And I'm sorry she's not here today, but it's definitely my boss, Steffi, who's the founder of DLD. She's a very awkward woman. I mean, she's like she always describes herself as the ambitious housewife that always dares to ask questions. And I mean, whenever she would come back from an event, I mean, it's always her that people remember, because she is like the small lady that is just, that wants to know everything from you, and who's just curious. And she's bold, and she's just authentic. And this is what you need actually out there to succeed.
I think, like, for me, everything started with Pippi Longstocking, and but like this sentence of saying, like, I make the world the way how I want it, and especially for me, shifting from software into hardware, that really came back to me, and I actually got the collection and watched it again. Especially love the pirate one. I'm actually, I just read the biography of Vivienne Westwood, and I was so inspired because she works in a very male-dominated environment. She started everything from scratch, and she didn't design for fashion, she designed for movement. And
Vivienne Westwood, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm so impressed, and I was like, okay, so this is the role model. It took her 30 years, but she always stayed independent, and she wholeheartedly, just on her own, just, influences still so many designers everywhere, and still is so humble and so open, and that really impressed me. So I'm hoping I can meet her one day and just say thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you mentioned a female fashion designer, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in tech, but powerful women everywhere in tech, outside of tech, and yeah. We have a little bit of time left, so I would like to take some questions from the audience. If you have questions for these women here, yes, you in the front, please. You, yep, you, yes, you.
Right there.
No, please. Yeah. Let's give the women the chance to speak first.
Hello, my name is Isabella. I have first of all, just like a small comment. I guess in Eastern Europe and in Romania specifically, the number of women going into technology is quite high, so it's about like 40%. And the people and clients, whoever that can come and visit us, they're quite surprised to see so many women going into tech. However, if you just look a bit at leadership and management position and top management position, the percentage would go a bit down, so 15 to 20%, I would say. My question is, how do you encourage women to actually access different career opportunities? And because women typically, they probably analyze something a bit more, so if there's a position that you could go for, they would really think, am I really prepared for it? Do I have all the skills? Whereas a man probably would say, I'm going to learn on the job and I'm going to probably take the risk. How do you encourage women, or what sort of programs can you maybe roll out in different organizations to really encourage women to pursue different career opportunities?
Yeah, so that's also an important point that, as underrepresented as, women are in tech, there are even fewer of them in the higher management levels. So the question is, what can you do to help women advance to the highest executive levels?
So, one approach is to start your own thing, obviously. We have some examples here. Something I've found that works is being extremely explicit about what you want and what you want to get to, and daring yourself a bit out of your comfort zone. That won't always work, but one example is one of my colleagues, who's a lot more junior, was wondering, how do I get promoted? And I worked with her on just making a very clear promotion case and basically giving her manager absolutely no excuse to assume that she did not want to get promoted. So then they have to make a conscious decision, and then at least you're in a conversation. So if you then get rejected, then you have reasons why, right? And maybe you can address them, or you can call them out on, hey, wait a second, right? I'm doing exactly the same as that person. So having these slightly uncomfortable conversations sometimes, and getting very explicit about what you want, and also feeling entitled that it's okay, yes, I can want that. I don't have to feel bad about wanting to be promoted. It is okay to want to achieve that, and then really having explicit conversations and getting advice from people that can help you, finding those mentors and sponsors as well, people who will push you and have faith in you and be like, yes, you can do that, go try it. That is, for me, what's helped. And it's really energy consuming, but it's the only thing that I've seen so far that has really worked.
Yeah, and I think it's slowly changing. I notice, at least the people I work with, I do notice a big difference from one generation above us and our generation, and also the generation below us, like the people who are just starting now. I do feel that people in our generation are much more open to it and don't have the same like comments or things like that maybe older generations do, some of them at least. And I think the best advice is just to ask for it. And I also think making everyone aware in the organization that it's pretty common that, you know, someone said like, women are promoted based on experience, men based on potential. And I think that's true, and I've seen that, and I've been through that. So I think like making other people aware of that, and just have an open discussion about it. But as a woman, if you want to have a higher position, just ask for it, and you don't get what you don't ask for.
And also, as a step before, define for yourself what you actually want, because then you can ask for it. And getting in a higher position and, you know, a higher salary is one part of it, but there are like so many ways how you can ask for value. Like, you know, you want to get extra training, you might want to do your MBA. When I was in my MBA, I had like a lot of women who used it as her negotiating package to say like, okay, I want to get extra education for my next step and stuff like that. But it really starts with like, what do you want, right? And then even though if the position doesn't exist, but you see a need into it, because you might already have done that in the direction, or you like it, or you see an opportunity, in the company, then just ask for what you want and not what you think what you have to ask. That makes sense. Yeah.
Great. Do you have anything to add? No.
I mean, you just have to understand, I mean, you're basically the author of your own life book or script. And I mean, as all the other great women beside me just said, I mean, ask questions, be curious, and don't just, you know, copy or read things and soak it into yourself, but like think beyond all of this, yeah? I mean, like take a step further. And if they tell you, okay, you're gonna earn, I don't know, 5,000 a month, you're gonna say, okay, but what about a little bit more?
Well, that's a great, thank you so much, all of you. I think we're out of time, but this has been a really great discussion, and yeah, happy to take questions. I think everyone here is happy to take questions if there are more later, but thank you guys so much for such a great discussion.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. It was fantastic.
Thank you.